We're going to Winnipeg now. Jamie Thomas, the color voice of the Winnipeg Jets, been sitting there for a while, and I appreciate him holding through the break. JT, my man, right from Jets practice. How you doing, buddy? Happy New Year.
I'm doing, Happy New Year to you as well. I'm doing great. I love your guys' conversation about the genuine parts of Paul Bissonnette. He was our first guest on the podcast. That guy is as real as it gets. A great guy. I think the thing that people appreciate about that podcast, just adding to your guys' conversation, is that it's locker room talk. You get all these stories from the dressing room that we don't really hear from the players during their, the current players. Retired players, I find, are the best storytellers because they're out of the game, and now they can get all those legendary stories out to everybody that you've been waiting for.
Yeah, their analysis is pretty good, too, because they're not afraid of there's nobody to crack down on them. But, Jamie, I texted you when it was announced that you're the color voice of the Jets, but this is our first face-to-face meeting, so I'll say that again. Congratulations. How does it feel, man? That's big.
It is big, and I appreciate that, Rod, and I appreciate the text message from you. We go back to the Western Hockey League days, and it's that's where this all began, right? All those bus rides across Western Canada. Now I'm back to the radio broadcast side of things after leaving television, and now I don't have to worry about wearing suits so much. It's a pleasure. There's only 31 of these jobs in the National Hockey League, and I remember Mike Keenan, when he was the head coach of the Calgary Flames, he said, it's a privilege to cover the National Hockey League. It's a privilege to coach in the NHL, and I feel the same way about broadcasting in the NHL as well.
Well, I know that you've definitely paid your dues in the business, so it's just got to be a real rewarding feeling. So, again, kudos, and I'll be listening.
Thank you.
And let me say this. So just the other day, I said, can we put the Laine talk to bed and let him go out and play hockey? And a lot of the Jets fans, we'll brush on Laine, but the fans in Winnipeg were like, yeah. There's other stories than Laine. So my question to you today is, what are those other stories in Jets training camp that we're not hearing?
I think you start first with, I know this has kind of been brought up, but Mark Scheifele, right? This is a big year for him. The North Division is loaded up the middle in terms of opposition. He's going up at Connor McDavid a lot more than he ordinarily is. Austin Matthews, that's the big challenge. Paul Maurice likes to put his top line against the other team's best. So it's going to be a lot of heavy expectation on Mark Scheifele to provide offense and then also be a big part of shutting down the other team's top lines. Josh Morrissey is entering into his first year of that big contract where he's over, averaging over $6 million per season. He needs to provide a little more offense and then settle things down defensively on the other end too. Dylan DeMello's back with him this year, so you got a full year of stability back in the blue line. And then to me, it is hard to follow up the type of season that Connor Hellebuck had last year because he's a Vezina Trophy winner. He's going to be expected to do a lot more with the blue line. Is a lot more stable than it was a year ago. There's so many guys leaving. You can't replace Dustin Byfuglien. Now that's out of the way. The blue line's a lot more stable. Can Connor Hellebuck be exactly what he was last year? Hopefully not having to face the quality of shots that he was facing earlier on in the season. So to me, those are the big lines. And then Nate Thompson, does he solidify that fourth line? That veteran centerman that is very good at faceoffs and helping the Jets get much better at the penalty kill than they were last season.
Wow, that is a wonderful recap. But the one thing that I'm not it is, obviously you've mentioned this a few times. But when I mentioned that you're the color guy for the Jets, you've been around hosting Jets TV for several seasons now. It's not like you're new on the scene. Why am I not hearing from anybody in Jets land that there's a fire burning in our bellies? We didn't have the showing against the Flames we expected in a 4-game loss in the play-in round last year. Why am I not hearing that?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And then completely avoiding the Matthew Tkachuk, Mark Scheifele firestorm too, right? The Flames and Jets do open the season on the 14th at Bell MTS Place. So it is. I think they've had so much time, Rod, to. The season was so long ago, it ended, and now they've had a lot of time to get over that opening round loss where they were severely depleted after game one. No Patrick Laine, no Mason Appleton, no Mark Scheifele. So now you've had this significant period of time where they didn't know they were going to play. Now they're going to play. They weren't sure when they were going to play. So I think that's kind of gone by the wayside, and now you're focusing on an extremely short training camp. And you get right to it with no exhibition games, which I love. I love the fact there's no preseason games this time around. You and I both, we've been in enough training camps, enough preseason games where if the roster is set, it's so hard watching those 7 preseason games. So I think the extended period between when they had lost that series to Calgary to the start of training camp is the reason why you're not hearing so much about last year.
What is the story on Byfuglien? Do we know where he is?
He's kind of hanging around. He's kind of like a unicorn right now, right? There's rumblings the Minnesota Wild were trying to get him to come out of retirement. Not so, right? The one thing about Dustin Byfuglien, if your viewers and listeners don't understand, the guy loves hunting and fishing, right? So I don't believe he's going to miss hockey one bit. And in my opinion, last year, or the year before, he had that concussion and he had a high ankle sprain. Dustin Byfuglien really hasn't been injured, right? He almost seemed like he was invincible at some point. So that concussion that he had with that collision with Jamie Oleksiak, two large human beings running into one another, and then the high ankle sprain. Anybody that's had a high ankle sprain, it's a long, significant recovery time. So I think that really weighed on him a lot, and that maybe the love of the game wasn't there as much. And he just loves going out, being in the outdoors. That's Dustin Byfuglien, man. He's a big kid. That was the reason why he played hockey for so long, because hockey is, essentially a kid's game, and you love playing it for that fun, but maybe the fun was lost for him, and I think he's very happy in retirement right now.
Two last questions for you, JT, Jets radio color commentator with us here. So the Scotia division, which I have no problem mentioning, I love sponsored love.
Yeah.
Where the Winnipeg's located right in the middle of the country, you're not going to be too hamstrung on time zone travel, I wouldn't think. What's your take on where the Jets fit in and what the challenges are in this new alignment?
The baseball style schedule, right, Rod? You're playing the same opponent. They play Calgary one time 4 times in a row. I think in March they play Ottawa 3 consecutive times. Getting to know these teams, and so the teams don't get set on your nuances, what you're going to do in the power play, what your breakaways or breakouts look like. Trying to trick those teams when you play them so many times in a row. So to me, that's a challenge. And then just not getting behind early, like staying healthy for anybody this year is so important. If Mark Scheifele gets hurt in game 1 or game 2, touch wood, that doesn't happen. It's going to be tough to come back from that. So staying healthy to me is the hugest part, and just Connor Hellebuck. You got to lean on him. And then this year, more than any other year, Rod, your backup goaltender is so huge, because ordinarily that back-to-back, you go to your backup guy. Laurent Brossoit has to find the magic that he had 2 years ago and the latter part of last season in order for the Jets to be to fit into that top 4 in the Scotia NHL North Division this year.
Yeah, you're not even used to it yet. And lastly, I'll wind it up. I'll wind it up with Laine. I mean, I don't get the fascination with the story. Like, I think you might know Mike Stackhouse's latest column on my blog today. He talks about how Laine looked cocky in front of the cameras the other day, and I completely didn't read that at all. He looked like a guy that just wants to play hockey and go out and prove himself, and what happens, happens. But what was your read on the media availability the other day, and how's he looked, and what do you expect?
Well, first off, he looks fantastic, and on a very good line with Paul Stastny and Kyle Connor. So I think the Jets' top 6 is solidified that way. Paul Maurice touched on the fact like he looks like a man out there. He's 22. He's kind of solidified or getting better in the defensive end of the rink. So that part of the game is taken care of and will always be worked on for him. But to me, no player is going to openly say they want to be traded. And that first day, he got up there, faced the music. His agent brought it up in the off season that it would be beneficial for both sides if he was moved out of Winnipeg. I agree with you, Rod. He loves playing hockey. He only wants to play hockey, and he doesn't want to talk about the business side of it at all, which you'll find with most players at that age in the National Hockey League. So I'm glad they got it out of the way. I hope it doesn't get brought up a whole lot. The Jets are used to this type of stuff in the dressing room. Patrick Laine is here to play. He's here to score goals, and I think that's how they're going to approach it, and he will approach it certainly that way this season.
Sounds like fun. Let's go. Jets and Flames next week.
Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for the time. We'll be listening, buddy. Keep rocking it. All the best in 2021.
RP, always a pleasure, man, and I'm always glad to come on the show. Thanks so much.
Oh, good. Thank you. Jamie Thomas, Jets color guy. Last time we had him on he was sitting in that chair.
That's right.
It was Heritage Classic time.
That's right.
So as I say, and Winnipeg folk know that he's been around the scene for some time, but now he's in the big air chair.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.